the weaponry of the bloodthirsty Viking raiders. 8th to 11th century. Though we often think of the Vikings of Scandinavia as being barbarians, when it came to warfare, they were quite advanced warriors, as well as being highly practical. So they tended to favor weapons that served a purpose in everyday life as well as on the battlefield. By far, the most popular of these was the spear, as it was cheap, very easy to manufacture, yet highly versatile. In battle, they could either be thrown or thrusted at the enemy, but it was also equally good for hunting the local wildlife such as boar and reindeer, as well as being handy to spear freshwater fish. There was no particular standard design, length, or even type of spearhead used, though generally the spears were 5 to 6 feet in length, with a large, broad metallic pointed tip fitted onto the wooden shaft by a socket. Another favorite among the Vikings were the simple, single-bladed woodsman-style axes that were just as good as chopping wood as they were for crushing the skull of your opponents in battle. Knives were also popular, proving to be an especially handy weapon to have at a feast during a lively brawl in order to settle a drunken argument, as other weaponry was not allowed at these types of rowdy celebrations. They were equally useful to slit the throat of an enemy in a sneak attack as they were for finishing off a downed forest deer. And as they were often on open display on a Viking's belt, they could be quite ornate with gold and silver inlay. As like most early civilizations, bows became predominant in battle and for hunting, as they offered the significant advantage of striking one's target from afar. Viking archers were able to shoot an arrow up to 650 feet away. They used different types of arrowheads for battle or hunting, as well as an armor-piercing variety for such things as a stubborn boar or a heavily armored adversary. As for the sword, this was seen as very much a luxury item in Viking society. Therefore, they tended to be crafted to a very high standard and served only one purpose, and that was to kill in battle. So it was only used by those who could afford it, like those of noble birth or warriors of high status. As for their own armored protection, the natural thick furs they wore most of the time to keep out the bitterly snowy climate they inhabited naturally gave them a high degree of protection. Sometimes metal riveted helmets were also worn. As for the ones with wings or horns on them, despite popular belief, they were never used by the Vikings in battle and were worn for purely ceremonial purposes. The Vikings regularly used shields that were typically of a medium size and circular design. They were light, yet amazingly strong and reinforced with iron rims and leather padding on the back of them. They were simply painted in 1 or 2 vivid colors, often with a basic symbolic design or a rune on it. In battle, the Vikings were fond of head-on wild charges in order to quickly overwhelm the enemy. Nevertheless, they could also be quite disciplined when fighting, being well-trained in the use of their famous shield wall or Skjaldborg formation. This was when a large group of Viking warriors would form an almost impenetrable line of interlocked shields and from behind them use spears to thrust at their attacking adversaries. But maybe the best weapon the Vikings had was their unwavering fighting spirit and their deep-rooted belief that to die in battle was the greatest honor that could be bestowed upon a warrior.